Assalamu alaikum, fam. Hope you're doing well. So, wanted to talk to you about something that's been bothering me, and one of the things that's been bothering me is how no one is effectively responding to the hate mongers who are going against our religion. The thing is this: no smart commander would tell you to ignore your enemy until it gets to a point where the level is so high, and then you go about dealing with it. A smart person would tell you, handle it while the problem is manageable. And clearly, I think the Dawah scene is abundant with knowledge, but not corrections of certain behaviors. And then I wonder, what's the point of having all those subscribers for certain Dawah people if they all rely just on a few people to put in all the work, while the anti-Islam people are busting out content? And if you say, well, if we respond to them, they will just create more things for money, I think that's a very silly thing to say, because it's like, you need to do your part. I think too many Muslims are depending upon the hate speech Islamophobia protection that they're getting temporarily from liberals. They're like whining on Twitter, screaming about Islamophobia, and they think that's like a sufficient cover. Whereas I think they're definitely forgetting there's gonna be, pretty soon, within 5 years, the liberals is gonna turn on you. They're gonna turn on us. And that protection that they once had in our community will be gone. And they will then say you're the hate speech person for adhering to your faith and not going along with a liberal, progressive, Democrat, even communist, atheistic agenda. Because they've laid the groundwork in San Francisco, and that's what they want for the whole United States. That is what the future is. That is what it's gonna be. That's what they want. And that's what they're pushing for. And that is what Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are enforcing. And Google is a force that is heavily political and serves their agenda. This is why Muslims have to wake up and start pressing now, and not saying, well, we'll just leave America and go to the Middle East. Well, if the only thing those economies have to export is fossil fuels, that's not going to last forever, because part of the green energy movement is removing the relationship with the oil-rich countries. And even people like Kyle Kalinske, he openly talks about this and says America should not be allied with Saudi Arabia because of their, what he says is human rights violations. And he openly goes against Islam. He's an atheist, right? So, the liberals are already planning to exterminate the products that the Middle East sells, majority of what they export, and is going to censor them through the internet. So if you're having these multifaceted attacks, can you really afford to keep saying ignore, ignore, and assume you're better than? Who cares if they say, well, they don't want knowledge, they just want attention for views? Cool. But you need to correct them and make an example of them in front of younger believers who don't even take time to read. It's like you're in the village, there's just giant monsters burning things down, pillaging the chicken coops, and you're just inside saying, well, they haven't got my chicken coop yet, so we don't need to worry about it. This is not an effective intellectual strategy or any kind of strategy. In fact, if I was an enemy, I'd say just keep sitting down doing nothing. Keep ignoring it, keep letting them run roughshod over you, keep letting them dominate the narrative, keep letting them set the narrative and push their agenda while you just rack in your own money and worry about your own self. You know, this is not effective, you know? I think there's the passive people, right? But then there comes a moment where you have to have pressure and you have to really make the point be known. You have to show people what it's about. You have to make sure they understand that this is where we stand, like it or not. The weird part is, I think it's quite strange that the only people who are doing like effective dawah, or it's like you have Daniel Hikikatu, he's taking like a beating. Not as in he's losing, I mean as in he's the one who everyone is pushing to the vanguard. And I just find that kind of odd. Like, that's a lot of pressure on someone's back. Like, he's the one who has to do all the debates. No doubt, maybe he likes it. That's not, but my point is this, like, it's just him kind of going in with the blows, right? And then you have the Fareed Response guy, which, okay, right? But that's it. Then you have EF Dawa, where people call in and argue with Christians. Okay, that's one angle, right? 5 people on one caller. Kind of odd, but okay. So, I mean, is that it? I don't get it. Like, how are you gonna do, like, no form of, like, written jihad, verbal jihad? Like, you're just gonna sit and, like, get YouTube monetization, PayPal, Cash App, Patreon. And it's cool to put in, like, the intellectual side, no doubt. Super important. But I feel like there's, like, a responsibility. There has to be a responsibility of, like, you have all different aspects of the Dawah side. Like, Brother Gabriel Rahmani has the masculine side. The 3 Muslims, they do, like, culture, commentary. You see, like, a lot of current events. MashaAllah. And then you have other YouTubers who talk about relationships and how you find a partner. You have Sapiens Institute, who does the cool, kind of nerdy aspect. But I feel like we need sisters, even if they don't show their face. You gotta start representing, man. And I know people say, no, we don't want our girlfriends online, we don't want our wives online. Yeah, but they're not doing it for, like, here, look at my bum bum, like an Instagram model. To defend the faith, to put in the work. Because is it a smart strategy to have very little representation? There's a lot of intellectual, but I'm talking about, like, correcting the record. And are you gonna just leave it to psychopaths like Linda Sarsour, who, I mean, whenever I listen to her, I feel like, geez, I gotta fix the way my manners are. You know, like, that's who you want to represent Islam to Americans? I mean, come on, man. And then you have Muhammad Hijab, he has to do a lot of intellectual work. You have Sabor. But it's like, what's going on? Like, you need an effective pressure campaign. An effective one where you're, like, going hard. Then there's the Ninja Mommy lady, who, she does kind of the cutesy stuff for, like, maybe Gen Z and stuff. Not my cup of tea, because I'm kind of more of, like, a mellow-toned person, but she still does something. But where is, like, the responses? It's a little embarrassing how some of these atheists are just, they're kicking ass and taking names, man. Even to the point where some of their videos are showing up in my political feed, and you're like, why is our community not rising to the challenge? I don't think we should run anymore, and I'm not saying you should spend all your time responding to bimbos, but 1 or 2 videos should be something. And I find it weird, how are you going to accept all this money to represent Islam, and then you don't ever go in front of an opponent and, like, show what you know, what you really know? Because some people can fake that they know a lot, And then when they get in front of somebody, you see like, oh, I don't know, it's like you're like, what? Like, with that debate with the brother who went with AP, I watched that debate and I was really disappointed. Because the brother, as a Westerner, with a Western education, the way he did his debate style was, he was giving a sermon, he was preaching, he was giving a khutbah. It wasn't by the normal debate standards of responding to AP's points. We got no answers. And then CP runs roughshod over his callers. I mean, come on, man, where is everybody? I mean, that causes me more doubts, even though I don't really have doubts. But it's like, what is the point of having sheikhs if they don't lay the record straight? I don't get it. That's how you're gonna let your enemies gain the upper hand. There's too much, I think, leaving it up to Allah, none of us putting in the work. It's a dark future, man. It's time to step up. It's time for people to answer arguments and lay things out consistently. You do waves of pressure. You don't just, okay, so-and-so said it, that's it. It's like, no, you need to have consistent pressure campaigns. Not like people who, every time a certain caller calls in, they turn off their YouTube camera, like, and their Zoom camera, and then they go somewhere else till that person who's joined the live stream exits. Enough running. And I'm gonna say it, like I said it before, it is weak. It's very weak to not respond to people and let them spread, their interpretations. It's a very stupid to rely upon the hate speech Islamophobia protection blanket, because as soon as liberals are done with Christians, they're gonna come for Islam. And even in one of my classes, my professor, she was saying how, she seemed pretty happy about it, but how evangelical Christians are becoming less and less in America as a voting bloc. Therefore, we gotta really be careful. Gen Z is gonna be the least religious generation. They're gonna vote different, they're gonna think different, they're gonna want different things. Therefore, we gotta step it up. And they're pushing hard. And they're in the culture war, they're in the economic war. And how dare we turn our backs on maintaining the faith for the sake of personal reputation? Because no one wants to look like an idiot. They don't want to look bad. They don't want to lose a debate. They just want to have like this one perspective that people view them as, and that's it. What's the point of getting all that money from Muslims if you don't put any work in? That's what I gotta say.